What is up, and welcome to No Agenda, where I have my internet friends come teach me stuff. Today I'm sitting down with the one and only Cliff Tan, also known as Dear Modern on TikTok, where he has some of the most entertaining and educational, I will say, accounts that I follow at least. Cliff will be teaching us all about Feng Shui. Cliff, thank you so much for being here, man.
Not at all. Very nice to be here. I can't wait to share more about Feng Shui and how to make your room look and feel, most importantly, feel nice.
Yes, I've learned a ton, and I can't wait to sort of like dive deeper into it. And I know you're calling in from Singapore today, so I appreciate you joining a little bit late. You said you're calling from your like the house that you grew up in, right?
Yes, so I'm normally in London, but I came to visit my parents. So here I am in my childhood bedroom. Very weird to be here. And
Yeah.
it's quite nice to come back because you look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. And so I'm like, okay, this is how my room used to be. I should have shifted this a bit more. Now that I'm more in tune with my environment. But
Right.
not much. I didn't change much, which shows that when I was young, I already had it.
You already had it. Okay, nice. It was an innate skill you were born with. Also, your priorities and what you were optimizing for when you were a child is probably different than what you need now. But that's good that they
All the
kept it
same, and
intact.
I never grew up.
Yeah. Did they didn't like convert your room to a gym or something?
No, they converted it into a storeroom. Then I just unstoreroomed it.
So I have a funny story for you, Cliff. I was
Yes.
my sister called me last night and I was reading your book. So Cliff has a book called Feng Shui Modern, where he kind of goes over the principles of Feng Shui. And I was trying to prepare for this interview. And so my sister was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm reading this book about Feng Shui." She's like, "Oh, I follow this amazing account on TikTok. You should see it. He has this model furniture. It's so cool." And I was like, "I'm interviewing Cliff tomorrow." And she was like, "Who's Cliff?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the guy. Never mind." So we're
Yeah,
big
people
fans.
don't actually know my name, so I get stopped on the streets like, "Are you the guy on TikTok? Are you the guy on TikTok? Are you Dear Modern?" And they don't actually
Yeah, yeah.
know my name, but they just recognize my face. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Like even on the plane, like the person who sat next to me recognized me, and
Wow.
it's very awkward to sit
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on the for the rest of the flight.
Did that take some getting used to? Do you enjoy the fame aspect of it?
No, it's nice. Like everyone's really nice, and also with what I do because I convert my followers to clients. I let them book a session with me. So in the end, we all become like real friends. We chit chat like you and me. Like now, it doesn't feel like fan and celebrity type thing. It's more like friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. For people that maybe haven't seen your stuff, can you give like a quick primer on what it is that you do on TikTok? And then we'll go into a bunch of your background, how you got into all that, etc.
So my channel is about making your space feel nice. I use the principles of Feng Shui, which is an ancient Chinese art of like planning and building houses. And I run through all the different like methods behind it to make you feel comfortable within your space. And I do it in like little short 30-second, 1 minute videos, each video showing a certain kind of aspect of it or using people's rooms to demonstrate it. And hopefully through all these examples and videos, people can learn how to make their own rooms feel nice.
And it's highly interactive, right? Like people will send you videos. It's not like you're taking theoretical models or things that you found on the internet.
Yes. I use real life houses. I mean, I've enough resources. Like people are sending me things all the time, and I have like my real clients alone. That's already thousands of different floor plans that I've seen. So you can imagine the craziest apartments I've ever seen in my life. And
Yeah.
so I use those as examples, and also I learn from these. I like before I started this, I didn't know that so many types of weird, unusual apartments ever even existed.
I can only imagine, especially because you can kind of open this up at a global level. Like there's no limitation to people in London or in the East or whatever. So we'll get into all that. And I want to know kind of more about like the business side of things. But for the average person that maybe isn't familiar with Feng Shui, or you've heard the term in association with someone designing their house or something like that, like how would you define the term Feng Shui?
So for me, I would just say Feng Shui is architecture. It's the same thing. It's like if I gave you a piece of land and I asked you to build a house, you would start to consider things like all the environment, where's the door, where's the road, and you will arrange your house according to all these external factors. And the ideas behind all these considerations is Feng Shui, and it just originated from ancient China 3,000 years ago. So it's just about the sense behind building a house in a right and sensible way.
I'll share kind of my misconception with it. I don't know if this is common from the clients that you talk to, but like to me, it was always associated with this sort of mystic design, almost like akin to fashion, like clothing fashion, which I've never really had an aptitude for. And I don't know, like sometimes I'm like, skinny jeans were cool 2 years ago, and then now they're not. And I don't really know why. Like we haven't really evolved out of skinny jeans, but there's this arbitrary being that's deciding what's cool and what's not. But then in learning about Feng Shui through your content, I was like, wow, this is actually highly practical and all about like serving your needs and making the environment that fits kind of what you, and I was like, I can get on board with this. This doesn't feel like super intimidating in the same way that like I'll never really understand fashion at that level.
Yes, Feng Shui has this reputation of being this superstitious, mystical, woo-hoo type thing. But actually it's very practical. But of course, anything that you translate over 3,000 years of history will become like mystical and mysterious. Sure. But really, it's a very practical application of your senses around your environment. Like Feng Shui will say things like, oh, if you sleep with your feet pointing to the door, you will get ill, things like that. But actually, it's more like if you sleep with your feet towards the door, you will feel uneasy that someone might barge in, and that will in turn make you not sleep well, and that will in turn make you feel not so good.
Yeah.
Chinese whispers, exactly.
Amazing. Okay, well, let's get into a little bit about your background, and then we'll work towards you kind of teaching some of the principles on Feng Shui. And if people want to learn more, they can read your book. But from interacting at least with my friends and family that do architecture full time, my understanding, and you can tell me if this is a fair characterization, but it's like kind of a well-paved path in the sense that you graduate from your undergrad, you maybe work for an architecture firm, you're working on large projects, maybe commercial, maybe residential. Eventually, maybe you do higher education. You start to take on more responsibility, maybe, and then some people go on to do their own practice. You at some point deviated from this path, and I'm curious like how and why that all came about.
So I was very much on the path. I studied the whole 5 years. I did my training. I went to an architecture firm to work. I did my part 1, part 2, part 3 exams. I got registered as an architect. All the boring stuff. Worked in a firm for many years. And then a very common dream of architects is to start their own business so that they can design their own houses to their liking and like have clients. So I went down that route. I left my company. I started my little company called Dear Modern. Then we started designing little houses for people or kitchen extensions, things like that. And then COVID hit, So COVID didn't affect me that much. What affected me was the rise of TikTok. So I started using TikTok and it was very entertaining. I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to contribute myself. I wanted to make content like everyone else, because back then making content was more normal. Now it's more like reproducing content, reposting. Yeah. But back then everyone was making fresh content. So I was creating content. I wanted to create something, and I thought architecture, that's a bit boring, no? Construction, a bit boring. So what do I know that might be quite fun? And I thought of Feng Shui, which is like how to place your bed in your room. I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. I took it for granted. It's so easy that I thought that posting it will bore people. Like, oh, that, like, I know that. But I just did it anyway. I posted, oh, how to place your bed in the bedroom. And that video went viral straight away.
Really?
And that made me realize that there's this misconception, because from the comments, people don't understand what Feng Shui is. People are very interested in it, but they don't know how it works. They're very scared of it. So I made more videos trying to explain in a clear way, in the way that I understood and worked with it.
Was that the same style as what you post now? It was taking people's bedrooms and kind of doing the real time, hey, this is where you fucked up, move the bed over here, the side table shouldn't exist, etc.? Or were you doing different videos to start with?
It's very similar. It started with just the principles, how to put and why. And then I started using examples. So the examples started really early on. Like my 10th video was already very similar to what I have now.
That's okay. You gotta understand, you're saying this very casually, but I can't tell you how many failed experiments I went through before we made our first viral video. Like, I remember we had sort of like the way I got into TikTok was through basically my friends and I were like, let's see who can go viral first. Because again, quarantine, boring, we're bored out of our minds. And we did all these random challenges. I was DMing influencers to try and get them to do them. So like to hear you just be like, oh yeah, the first video I told someone to move their bed and it went viral. And then 10 videos later, I kind of had my shtick. It's very impressive, I say. Like,
it was a bit like, I was really lucky. It was very, very like, no, literally it was my third or fourth video that went viral ever. So
wow, that's impressive.
I signed up in November, and in December I made that Feng Shui video. So yes, it happened because I was traveling back to Singapore and I was quarantined. That was at the very early stages of COVID. So I had to quarantine in a hotel room for 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
So 2 weeks in the hotel room, that's all I did. Just making TikToks.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like it more than paid off for you. At some point, so you started to gain some traction. People were like, oh, I love this. Obviously, you're going to keep making videos as long as they continue to go viral. When did you start? So now, if you go to Cliff's page, you'll see there's sort of like a consultations link in bio, and you can book an hour with Cliff. There's different levels and tiers based on how much, I guess, hands-on work you're doing, whether you're actually in person, whether you're actually designing the floor plan from scratch, et cetera. Like, when did you start to turn this into a business and then leave behind the sort of traditional path?
Yeah, so I was still doing my normal architecture. This was on the side. And then I got so many DMs from people asking me questions, and I started answering because you're excited, you wanted to help. So I answered everybody, but it got out of control. So I made a video posting like, I can't deal with this. Guys, tell me what to do. And people were saying, oh, start a fan page, let people donate. Someone said, oh, why don't you set up a consultation page so that people can book and meet you? So I thought, okay, that's quite a good idea. Let's try. Yeah. And so I tried. I set up my website. It's largely unchanged actually since I first set it up. And people started booking, and I was amazed. Like, people actually booked. So I started talking to them about their bedrooms, which is really weird for an architect because you're used to big contracts, building someone's house, signing a big contract that lasts 2 years. And now I'm just like being a GP. You see someone one-off, and you charge them like $100 and you never see them again. So I started doing this, and it kind of worked really well because that was exactly what people needed. They didn't need a big contract. They didn't need me to make visualizations and draw plans for them and charge them thousands for those. They just want the brains, and they can do it themselves. Yeah. So I gave them exactly that, the brains for very affordable. And so it's all about being within reach for people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that about your sort of mission to sort of democratize this and make it accessible to the every person. Like, obviously, I'm not going to hire an architect. I wouldn't even know where to start. I might give my friend a call and say, hey, where should I put my whatever, but like, this is such a accessible way for your average, I don't know. I empathize a lot with people that live in New York, especially because I live in New York in a tiny apartment. And I'm like, how do I get the most out of this super tiny place that realistically wasn't really designed for humans to live in? But
exactly, like people don't know where to start. Like they will ask their friends, they will feel bad about asking their friends. So this is a way where you can pay someone and ask me all the questions you want, and I will help you with my 110%, and you will come out being much more aware, and you know exactly what to do with your home.
I love it. You mentioned a little bit about taking on these individual projects, and then the more traditional, larger scale projects that architects typically work on. And so your average day looks like back-to-back consultations with individual people talking about their houses and things like that, I imagine. And there's a long waiting list almost for people to get on.
That's the problem here. So I stopped doing the traditional thing because there was so many bookings, and my prices are cheap. So I haven't changed them much. It's almost the same as when I first started. And people ask me to raise my prices. I say, no, it's not about that. It's all about not being expensive. And so I insisted on keeping as like the same prices as they have always been. But the problem is that now I'm fully booked 4 months ahead.
That is
So
a good problem to have, as they say. But do you have, from a fulfillment perspective, like if I were to give you, you have your 8, 12 hours a day to work with back, and you could design it exactly how you want, do you still want a mix of some of the larger scale stuff? Because I imagine it's super fulfilling to work with individual people. You get to see all these different diverse clients. Do you ever crave the like, oh, I wish I was working on, I don't know, a public space in London or something like that, as a nice counterbalance to all of the individual clients that you have?
not so the last project I worked on was actually Google's new headquarters in Mountain View. That was the last project that I worked on before I left. So I'm
Oh, wow.
used to very, very big mega projects. And I like it's good. There's tons of people, tons of brains. People are smarter than me there. So they can do it. But there's
Yeah.
nobody helping like everyone else. So I am totally happy where I am, helping everyone else. And like to share this very honestly with you, I thought I was very good when I started. I thought I knew my stuff. But
Yeah.
now I have like I've more than 1,500 clients. I've seen them already, and I
Sure.
realize now I know more than what I knew before. I'm much more experienced now because you have seen so much more. And never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I would have met so many thousands of people in person one by one.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So I had a question in here about sort of like the differences to your point about meeting so many different people. You don't obviously live, like, you meet people in Asia, you meet people in Europe, in the Middle East, maybe. TikTok obviously has no limits in terms of where your content is going. Do you have there been any sweeping cultural differences that you've picked up on in how people choose to design their places, or how their houses are designed and things of that nature?
Yes, big differences, big differences.
Okay,
Like
give me like the juicy ones. Like, I want to hear your hot takes.
what do you see? I mean,
Like things that
okay,
you're
like
more
for
appalled by. You know?
I guess what one big difference that I see is that people in Asia are more table people. People in the West are more couch people. Like not trying to generalize, but a lot of people like
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Asia they would rather like you have people saying that I don't need a dining table, I just want my couch. Whereas in Asia, it wouldn't be unusual for someone to say I don't need my couch, I just want the table in the middle of the room if the house is too small.
Oh, interesting.
So there is quite a big difference in the way people live.
Why do you attribute that to?
I think it's like a cultural difference, like the way people communicate. Like I think in Asia, they like the dining table is a very important place where they always like to sit around and upright, and they have hot pot and stuff like that. Whereas in the West, I think it's a bit more casual. Maybe it's colder. You want to have a fireplace. You like to sit around and cuddle up, and it's a bit more like cozy. So I think the way you live and the way you experience your environment, and also the climate also matters.
But the climate, like along at least like the east coast of China, is very similar to the climate
Yes,
along the
yes.
east
So,
coast of the U.S.
but the way they deal with it is also different. Like in the US, you have a fireplace. In Japan, for example, they have that heated table. Have you seen?
I
It's
don't know
like
what that
a
is now.
table with a heater inside, and it has this blanket, and you
Oh,
cuddle under
interesting.
around this heated table.
You know what's funny? I have a fireplace in my house that I wish I could use because it's freezing for like 6 months of the year in New York, but it's been dysfunctional for like 50 years. Um,
But it's nice. It looks nice.
it looks like I have disco balls hanging in it now, as a decoration. But
No, that's a very good decoration for the fireplace because disco balls with their sparkliness has a lot of fire in them,
oh, interesting.
right?
Okay, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, I actually sent an email to my landlord about. I asked when I first moved in. I was like, by the way, like, is it cool if I use the fireplace? And in all caps, she responded, "Do not use the fireplace for fire. This will cause serious hazard." But also because my apartment like has wood floors and there's a lot of wood and exposed brick, as you can see, and it's
Yes.
east facing. So I get a lot of sunlight in the morning, which I learned from your book. It's wood is really good for east facing apartments, right? Because something about growth and green.
Yeah, yeah,
Did
it's
I miss
wonderful.
something?
East facing apartments are among the best. You get lots of nice morning sunshine and good energy. and not being too hot, like west facing.
Yeah, the mornings are nice. The afternoons it gets a little chilly, but that's when I turn on the disco balls and do a dance party.
Good, good, good.
Okay, I got a couple more questions, and then we'll let you kind of talk about feng shui and some of the principles. But if I was a skeptic to feng shui and I said, you know what, Cliff, great, I'll put the couch here, put the couch there. What does it really matter, right? Because a lot of this is happening sort of in the subconscious.
Yeah.
What are some of the negative impacts that you've seen by not taking into consideration feng shui? Like, can you really attribute it to direct outcomes and productivity and happiness and general vibe, mood? I can speak on my own behalf, but at a larger scale, what would you say about that?
Yeah, totally. Like for any skeptics, I'll just tell them, like, imagine you're walking into a restaurant and there's the seat right by the door, and there's a nice comfy seat right in the corner of deep inside the restaurant. Would you sit on the seat by the door? And if you did sit at the seat right by the door, where everyone's walking in and out, the waiter serving them and taking and lots of queues, would you enjoy your dinner there? Like, it shouldn't make a difference, right? You have your table, you have the great food, you have the service.
Right.
What difference does it make? You have your company. If you say that you will feel uncomfortable, you wouldn't want to sit there, you rather sit deeper inside, then that in itself already shows that the environment affects you, and you want to place yourself in a better way so that you will enjoy yourself for your well-being. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Do you have to sort of like, I assume you're hyper aware when you go into public spaces, or maybe you go to a friend's house and there's very poor consideration of feng shui. Does it eke at you a little bit? Like, does it hurt you? Are there like
no.
voices in your head? How do you quiet them? Like, how do you still go about enjoying your evening? Because yeah, I mean, I feel very sensitive to vibe myself, and it's hard sometimes.
I mean, if it's happening to me, for example, if I went to a restaurant and they gave me a bad seat, I would just like move to a different restaurant. So, for me, the environment
So
is
you
more
don't.
important than the
But
food.
sometimes you're
I
not
don't
alone,
care.
Cliff. You got your friends. Maybe it's your friend's birthday, and this is the reservation that we have. You know.
I'll just be very upset. Like I'm not one to make a scene, so I'll just like sit there like really angry.
Watching your back for any potential attacks or anything.
Yeah, it's like like
Yeah.
there's another example. You know, like when there's a long table and you sit at the
Yeah.
head of the table, like a very very long table, and I put you right at the
Sure.
at the head of it. You feel
Yeah.
a bit like everyone's watching you or something, a bit intimidated, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, you feel
So
like you have to give a speech or something.
exactly, and that's another example of how there's this energy, this weird hoo-ha thing, but it does affect you. You can feel it. So it's hard to
Yeah.
explain, but yet it's not really superstitious.
I'm super sensitive to like vibes, and actually when I go to a restaurant, like I can't face a wall. It's like the thing that my mom said once, and then I picked up on it, and now it's like she's so right about it that I hate to admit it because it bothers me, because sometimes you don't have control over it. But
Yes.
it's something that I try to tame, because a lot of friends aren't really understanding of it. They're like, dude, what's wrong with you? Just hang out, have a good time. We're here, we're together. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, that light in the corner is too bright, so my whole evening is ruined.
Yeah. Even like if it's like glaring into your face, it's like what once you see, you can't unsee, and it just bothers you all night.
Yeah, 100%. But I also know that a lot of buildings, and maybe you've had some direct experience with this, but like not every building that gets built, commercial or residential, has an architect design the plans, is my understanding. There are some sort of like there are often times where a contractor will just say, hey, we don't have budget for an architect, so we're going to use this sort of like templated design and build a building. What are the things that you look for? Like, what are some dead giveaways that an architecture was missing from the plan when you walk into a public space, a hotel, a museum, or whatever?
Okay, so like I mean, it's true, and like architects are a bit of a luxury service. You don't actually need an architect. You could just get a contractor to design it for you. So the giveaway is when they prioritize having the function rather than how you feel using it. So you have the room, you have the kitchen, everything is all there, but it's just very difficult to use, very uncomfortable to put your furniture inside. Like there's no consideration of how you live or use the space. So very often you'll see houses like that. apartments like that, shopping malls like that, and you'll be like cursing the architect. Or,
Yeah.
for example, if you open the door and you see the toilet straight ahead, that's not very
Oh,
nice.
in the bathroom. Yeah.
You open the bathroom door and right in front of you is a toilet. That is not a very pleasant surprise. Normally you put it towards the side so you don't see it straight away. That's a small little example.
I had a mentor once, or actually the guy who founded the company that I used to work for, had a famous quote that said, like, software is an act of empathy, or something along those lines. And you talk a lot about the importance of empathy in architecture and feng shui and understanding someone's, like, it's not that you should put the couch here, this is the answer. It's first, let me try to understand your world, where you're coming from, what's important to you, and then we can design, I guess, the space so that it serves your needs. It is, I guess, one theme that I've taken away from some of your content. But I'm sure there are people that are on your channel that are, or that you consult for, that are also very unreasonable. No, Cliff, I have to have the dining room here, and I absolutely want it to be this size, and it has to be glass and whatever. So how do you be empathetic while still being, I guess, like, pushed back to clients that are being unreasonable?
Okay, the main thing is that nobody is ever unreasonable. It does not exist. Like, no one's unreasonable. Like, empathy is about understanding things from their point of view. If they say something that seems unreasonable, you try to understand, put yourself in their shoes and see why do they want it that way. And if you truly understand properly, you will be on their side. You'll be like, yeah, totally. Of course I want a bar height table because I don't like to sit. It's bad for my back. I like to move around. So I want a bar height table. Why would I want a normal dining room height table? So that's the importance of empathy, because I have done, like, so out of my many, many thousands of clients, I have done like flats in the same building out of pure coincidence. Same building, same floor plan. And I after speaking to them, I dealt with the apartment in a totally different way. Still single person, still single working professional, same floor plan, one bedroom, but you did it in a very different way. Both of them are still working from home, but their jobs are different. Their computers are different. Their style is different. The way they entertain friends is different. So all these things will affect the way you use your space, the way you feel. What is the part of the home that you use the most? Maybe someone is more of a couch person, someone is more of a table person. So if one is Asian, one is Western, so it might be different, and it will be different. And I have never done 2 rooms in exactly the same way yet.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there's this thing that I like to think about where like everybody is different. Like, you can't say that, you can't complain to someone saying that, oh, you're not on the same page as me. Nobody will ever be on the same page as you. We are all different.
You don't strike me as someone who's particularly, like, confrontational when someone has a big difference from what your opinion is. Like, how would you go about trying to reason with someone and being like, no, but you need to understand this is actually better for you because of these reasons?
Oh, no, normally once you tune yourself into their brains, you can convince them as they would convince themselves.
I like that.
You understand what's important to them, and you pick on the things that are important to them, and you start to understand the things that they think will work, but they don't have proof that will work, and then you start to explain that actually it will not work.
I love it.
It's very, very manipulative.
Yeah. No,
I feel like a salesman sometimes. I'm like a salesman trying to sell you your own house,
Right. 100%. But at the end of the day, also, like, it's their space, right? If they're going to super fixate on something that doesn't make sense.
No, I mean, like, my most difficult of clients, I would say, is your space. Do whatever you want. This is my opinion. I urge you to try it. If you don't like it, move it back. Just try it.
Right.
In fact, I would be like on the video right now. Okay, now we have 15 minutes left on the meeting. Move it now.
See how it feels. I love it.
Because some of them, I know they like to, like, what's that word? I can't think of words. Procrastinate. Yes, I first like to procrastinate. I can feel it. I know they're not going to do it. So I'm like, okay, let's do it now. And they do it now. And yeah, they like it, and we kept it the same. It works.
Okay, maybe I don't know that this space warrants it, but if I ever do buy a space in New York, or likely elsewhere, I will 100% get on the 4-month waiting list to.
Yeah. I will roast you actually. Like it's not just a YouTube.
I love it.
I actually roast people in person.
I love your roast, dude. I think that's one of the funniest parts about your videos is you had a video of you can put your bed next to the window so that you can look out or jump.
You then 1 foot out.
Yeah. Okay, I want to leave people with at least some understanding of some of what I guess the traditional principles of Feng Shui. So your book, Modern Feng Shui or Feng Shui Modern, goes over. I think there's 5 chapters. It's a very nice read. It's very well laid out. You talk a little bit about planning. You go into specifics about like the different rooms in a house and best practices for designing your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, etc. But there are a few recurring themes that I picked up on. So maybe we can kind of structure the lesson this way, unless, Cliff, you have any specific way that you want to go over this.
I mean, I can go through very, very basic Feng Shui on things that you should know. I have it in my mind, like 2 things that you should know. One of them is about they're kind of interconnected. It's about the command position and the energy. So it's like how you analyze a space. I can show you.
So if you're just listening, Cliff has it pointed to a room layout, and if you've seen his TikToks, this resembles, I think, what you've seen.
Okay, so here is a room, and you have the door.
Okay.
So the door is a point of energy because this is where things can happen. So, like, let's say I have a bed, right? You don't really want to put your bed right here because it's right next to the door. Anybody knows that. You don't need to know Feng Shui to know this is weird. You kind of want to put your bed a bit further away, and this is the best place in this room will be. Actually, before I go to that, if I were to ask you to come into this room and sit down on the floor, where would you sit in this room? That is most likely the nicest part of the room. You will not sit around the door. You will want to sit close to the window where there's nice views. So probably you will be somewhere over here where my screw is. So this is known as a command position because you have a wall behind you to protect you. No one is going to attack you. And you can see the entrance, you can see the good views. So this is the nicest part of the room. So that's where I'll put my bed. I will not put my bed like this. This is just plain weird. You're just like floating around in the middle of the room. You want to be against a nice wall. Let me use a double bed so you can see. And then you feel protected from behind. So this is known as the command position in Feng Shui, where you have a nice stable backing behind you and you have open views in front to protect you in case someone is going to barge in with a spear and arrow. You can at least have some space for warning and you can maybe jump out the window or something like that. So that is known as the command position. There's another thing that you must know is that you must understand what is energy. So energy is not just this weird vibey thing. It's basically whatever that you can feel in a room. Like, for example, if this was a plain wall, there's nothing. Once I put a door, even if the door is closed, you know there's potential for someone to come in. And so you look at this part of the wall differently. You know that, okay, there's a door here, someone might come in. So similarly, here is a window. If outside there are like nice trees, beautiful flowers and stuff like that, you can't see. Beautiful trees and flowers, it's a nice view. That's great. But if it's like a big car, there's a big car, there's a road, and the headlamps are there, you will feel like, okay, there's a car parked right here. It's not very nice. Or if there are bins parked outside, it's not such a nice view anymore. The room is exactly the same shape, same size, same everything, but it feels different. If there is a car here, you might not put your bed there anymore. You rather put your bed here, out of the view of the car or of the parking lot, even if it means being in front of the door. So, and that's why there is no right answer.
It's all circumstantial based on the layout of your room, but also where your house is in respect to your neighborhood and things like that.
Exactly. Or for example, let's say I have a couch. I have a couch, right? I have a couch. So
yeah,
if a building's like this, you would not really want to sit with your couch like that because you are looking at the wall. You want to sit with your couch like this so you can see out the nice open view. But suddenly, if my building comes here, then you might change your mind and move your couch to here again. So you see how something so seemingly external that has nothing to do with you can affect the way you use the room inside.
Yeah.
So that is the energy that I'm talking about. These things around us, that all these variables around us. Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. And that's what I'm trying with every single video, trying to make people understand. They just don't understand. They just don't get it.
Right. It's not about, because in the book, like when you learn about the traditional feng shui, the energy is often referred to as like it's a protection thing. It's like you don't want someone to come attack you. And when people take that literally, it's like, okay, well, I'm not really worried about people attacking me, but subconsciously, your brain does work that way.
It does, and that's when people think that it's a bunch of bollocks. They just think that it's just rubbish because, like, why are you talking about people attacking me? It's not going to happen. It's not about that. It's just about feeling this feeling of uneasiness. That something that, like, even if you know that no one's going to come through, you will just like be a bit aware about it.
I think that's super important.
So that's about the energy, and so the energy is about being aware of all the motion and movement and potential variables around you. And the command position is the place in the room that takes into account all these energies and is the best spot in the room that you want to be in. So it becomes more complicated when you have two different users in the room. Like, let's say you want to sleep and you want to study in the same room or work in the same room. Which one gets the best spot? Then the question comes back to you, which is more important to you? If you can sleep very, very easily, then I can put the bed anywhere. You just sleep. If you like, for example, if work is really, really important to you, then we put the desk in the best part of the room. Or if sleep is super important and you're a very light sleeper and your work is like just one day a week, then we can just put the desk in any old place and the bed is in the nicest part of the room. That's why it's important to really understand yourself, to know what is best suited for you. It's not just like, oh, because he did it in this plan, I should do it that way. Not at all.
Right. It's highly dependent on the person, the priorities of the person.
Yeah, and if they live with another person, they have a cat, they have a dog, they have more than that, I don't know.
Do you consult for clients in New York City often?
A lot.
Do you have any like observations about the space in general? Like I anecdotally feel like the apartments here are smaller and not as nice as other cities. My friends in London or whatever tell me like, dude, for the same price, you would have this much space and this outdoor space and whatever. Like, have you found that to be the case?
Like, New York is a weird place. There's this analogy that I like to make, is that like New York seems to be a city that is carved out of a piece of rock, where the streets are carved out. So like whenever you look out a window, you just see the building opposite. It's very dark. It's very heavy. Everything's very stony.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling of New York apartments. It's usually very heavy, very dark, very tight, and very awkward. So a lot of the time we're just trying to deal with all these flats, how to put things in the nicest way to engage with the light more. And New York is not like in the middle of the equator where it gets sunlight all day long. So even more important that we want to maximize the feeling of light. So when I maximize light, I'm not maximizing how much light comes in. We're not putting smoke and mirrors. We're trying to make you feel the light as much as possible by putting you towards the light. And that will change the way you feel around your space.
So whatever windows or potential openings you have, make sure the places where you're going to spend a lot of time are next to those things. If you're fortunate enough to have them.
If you have like some people don't have windows.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I know. I used to live in the East Village, and it's another neighborhood in New York, and there were no windows in our living room, but the space was fine. But that's also because they had converted what was supposed to be a 1-bedroom into a 3-bedroom, which happens all the time in New York. So like put up fake walls. Yeah. They'll put up fake walls. So you could tell there was one master bedroom that was like meant to be a bathroom and a bedroom and had a bathroom. And
I hate them. Speaking of that, I do get clients who are developers, who are these kind of greedy developers. And I'm like, shame on you.
Yeah.
And like, it's actually good when I get these kind of developer clients, because I can kind of force them to improve the living situation. But of course, I don't say it like, oh, you are evil. I mean I frame it in a way that if you do it properly,
They are evil, Cliff.
people will more likely live there. They will stay there longer. They will not leave. They will not have like times where your flat is just lying empty. So if it makes sense to them, it makes sense to everyone else. See, empathy again. You just need to understand that.
Do you have a preference to work with someone with, so like a lot of your page on TikTok features like really small apartments, and probably because that's more fun and funny for the internet to say like, oh my god, look at this space, or those videos of people's apartments in New York that have like one long alleyway where their bed is at the end or something like that. Like, do you get more excited or energy working with clients with really big spaces where there's a ton of potential, or getting super crafty with these really small spaces?
It is a funny question because sometimes the bigger projects are actually more difficult. Because like when the house is really small, you get crafty and you want to really just fix the puzzle, solve the puzzle. But when it comes to a big house, you need to like consider that it needs to look grand, it needs to look impressive, there must be this symmetry, it needs to live up to the scale and the size of the apartment. And so it becomes even more limiting in a weird way. A big space is kind of harder to furnish than a small space, because small you can get quirky. Big you can't. Big you're supposed to be like casually working, and everything should just work perfectly because you're so rich. Nothing should be compromised, right. You know. And very often these big houses, a lot of things feel compromised, and that is even more wrong. You come to this mansion and you open the door and the staircase is right there. It's you need a proper foyer space. Like it opens a whole new can of worms. So yeah, it's different. I would say it's different, but it's just as fun. I should do more videos on big houses actually.
Well, I feel like the people with the smaller apartments are also probably more grateful, and they have lower expectations of like what this thing is actually going to result in.
Sometimes the expectations are so low that I'm like, you need to like you can't live like that. Respect yourself. Like we need you to live in a respectfully nice way. We're going to give you a table. We're going to give you a couch. We're going to give you like a proper place to eat. And they're like, no, this is right. It's impossible. I say, no, it's possible. Let's do it like this. And that's an example of how someone who totally hates their home can learn to love it. Like a lot of my clients are people who like are thinking of not renewing their lease, or thinking of moving out, but they're giving it one last shot to see if they can make it work, and then they'll stay on. Because usually they are in some kind of nice rent control flat, and the price is great, but they just hate it so much. So we try to.
Well, you hear this all the time in New York. You hear people saying like, "Oh, well, whatever. It's just my house." Like, honestly, I hardly spend any time there. I just put my stuff there, and that's where I go to sleep every night. That's how I used to think about it too, because it's comforting to think that way. But the reality is, like, you would spend more time if it wasn't so fucking miserable.
Yeah, it's an excuse.
It's an excuse. Are you ready for Smash or Pass?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go through a bunch of things that are in the sort of theme of interior design. And I want your first initial reaction. No overthinking. No, you have to answer everyone. And you can give a little bit of commentary. So starting with rocking chairs.
Smash.
Really?
Okay, so a rocking chair must come with a couch. So you need a stable place to sit. But once you have the stable place to sit, the rocking chair itself becomes like a little amusement park ride. It's a place to like get off the stable couch and have some fun and have some movement and motion in your life. So that brings in this level of energy. So it's good for old people who have no energy. So it kind of renews and refreshes and recharges them.
That's why old people like rocking chairs. Okay. Freestanding tubs.
Pass. For sure.
Why?
Because you have to clean around the edges. There's mold growing around.
Yeah, showers can get pretty gross. Okay, wallpaper. I know you want to say it depends, but you have to say one.
Pass.
Why?
Because I'd rather you actually have real art in your home that means something to you than this thing just to fill up the wall.
Were you hesitating on it? Is that why you were like a little bit, because sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't, or no? Hard pass.
Because what I realized is that whenever you tell people to hang art here, hang art there, people don't actually have art.
Yeah.
and the horror is that they come back to me and say, no, I hung this picture and this awful sign, live, laugh, love. You know, it's like, oh my God, that's worse than before. Take it down, take it down.
That's so good. Exposed brick.
Pass.
Dude.
Pass. What is that? No, I mean, totally pass. Like,
I was expecting you to at least give me like a sympathy smash. What's wrong with exposed brick? I almost don't want to know, by the way, but I have to ask, what's wrong with exposed brick?
no, it's nice if it's already there. It's bad when you fakely put a fake brick wall. And when people use the term exposed brick, they're probably putting a fake wall.
Oh, interesting. So it's like it's after the fact they've
Boy,
added
it
a brick
pains
wall.
me so much if someone has this fresh white new built apartment, brand new apartment, and they put this brick wallpaper or this brick texture thing just to get the industrial loft look.
Yeah, it looks stupid. My friends and I have a running joke that like exposed brick is such good branding for what it is. Like really what it is uncovered brick. Like you forgot to fucking put a wall there. Hammocks.
Hammocks.
Yeah, like a hammock.
Pass.
Why? Doesn't it give you energy like the rocking chair or no?
It can, but when you are sleeping, you are like super vulnerable. You want to be in a more like secure position. So in a hammock, not only are you very insecure, but it kind of wraps your field of vision. So you need to really be very trusting of your environment to have a hammock.
I love that. Okay. That's why they're usually like in a park or in a beach or something.
Yeah. And usually your friends will come with
Layer rugs.
Yeah,
when the rugs like layer on top of each other.
But you know, I don't mind actually. Smash. I don't mind. It sounds stupid, but sometimes when a space is awkwardly shaped, that's a very clever way to distract from the shape of the room. If you put a perfectly square rug in an odd shaped room, it will just make you think of how bad your room is.
I've also seen you use it to like dedicate areas. Like this is where you're gonna get dressed every day, so let's put a little circle rug.
The thing about rugs is that they create like pathways. They create zones where you are slower and zones where you are faster and you walk past. So it kind of regulates the energy of the room and makes it more functional and usable that way.
I love it. Okay. Mobile sauna. This is becoming popular in certain cities. Like a sauna that you put in your room. My friend has one in New York.
Whoa.
It's supposed to have really good health benefits.
Oh gosh, pass.
Yeah.
No. Okay. I mean, I know people in Finland, they have it in their houses, but I think it's a bit too big, right? Didn't you just say New York apartments are small?
Yeah, I know. It's only for the ones that can make it work.
Okay. Yes, pass. Definite pass.
Accent wall.
It depends. Okay, so pass. You know why I say pass? Because once again, like the break. If someone says accent wall for the sake of saying accent wall, it's probably going to be wrong. If you know how to use it, you wouldn't call it an accent wall. You would say like this wall kind of replaces the bed head or something like that, or it frames the artwork.
No.
But painting a wall for the sake of painting the wall is not thoughtful enough, and it makes the house look a bit weird.
All right, guys. Avoid accent walls or you'll get roasted by Cliff. You heard it here first. Thank you so much, Cliff. You have a ripple effect on the world. I think you're creating this content, which is making people learn, making people rethink their own spaces, making them better versions of themselves, which I think is one of the best things happening with the content on TikTok, aside from, people dancing half naked. So I really appreciate you sharing all this wisdom for years now. People, you should go read Cliff's book, Feng Shui Modern. Cliff, anything else you want to plug here before we wrap?
No, well, so now you know.
Yeah, so now you know. Amazing. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.